What is up, everybody? Ethan Newberry, the Ginger Runner here, episode number 69. What a number, huh? Yeah, get your minds out of the gutters. Tonight's guests are going to be really, really great. So I couldn't have picked better guests for episode 69. Sorry, Andy and Peter, to put you guys under the bus like that. I'm really excited about tonight's show. I say that every week, but this week, my guests attempted something pretty damn incredible in a place that I hold very dear to my heart, and that's Yosemite. I'm joined by Andy Pearson and Peter Brennen to talk about the unofficial Yosemite 100. I want to find out where the idea came from, how it sprouted up in their demented minds, what happened when they attempted it. It's going to be a nice, fun-filled story evening, so grab your beverage of choice, sit back, relax, and get ready for some stories. I'm freshly back from altitude, back at lower elevations, feeling super hyped. The oxygen is flowing freely through the blood. Yeah, I guess that's how that works. Science. Welcome to the show, everybody. Ginger Runner Live. I'm very excited about tonight's episode, so let's get started, shall we? Ginger Runner. Yeah, welcome everybody. Very excited about tonight's show. I've said that 14 times already in the short 30 seconds we've been live. If you are tuning in live, I appreciate you sticking around because we're pushing the show tonight by about an hour. I think an hour and 5 minutes. A little bit later than our normal show time. One of our guests tonight, I won't say who, had some jury duty to take care of today. So, you know, unfortunately, we had to push the show back a little bit, but actually it's good because some of you might be laying in bed with your loved one. So this is going to be a real nice, soothing, fun show tonight. Let's get to those guests. You hear the voices. That is Andy Pearson and Peter Brennen. Here they are, my guests for the evening. I'm very excited. What's up, guys?
Hey, dude. What's on? How's it going?
Good.
69. I like your, bring them in, watch with your lover tonight. See what happens.
Yeah, I figured, why not make this the love episode? Normally that would fall on Valentine's Day or something, but we got two handsome gentlemen joining me tonight. Bearded fellows, luscious long hair, and these guys are worth the romance. I just realized that I think there's also beeping going on. I'm getting text messages and it's popping up on my computer. Sorry about that, guys. Turn that volume knob. It's the second one in and then one down. Yeah, there you go. Just turn it all the way to the left. Sorry. So I'm really excited to have you guys on because Andy, we've had you on the show before after Hurt 100, and I've been following you and all your races over the last year or more, and you've been kicking major ass, winning races, podiuming most of the races that you've entered or ran this year alone, right? I mean, you've done some major damage out here in the West and the Southwest. I was really excited to hear about this adventure that you two embarked upon. Help set this up. Who came up with the idea? Why the hell would you think about doing it? And kind of where was the roots in all of this, especially during a pretty heavy early race season?
I can't take any credit for it. This is this moron's idea, so I'll let him talk about the origins of this idea.
Oh man. So I watched that J.B. Bennett movie, The Long Haul, and in it he mentions that Catrick Corbett ran a self-supported 100-mile in Yosemite. And Yosemite also being one of my favorite places, I was immediately like, oh, that's so rad. And my girlfriend said, oh, I think she did it on the valley floor. And I thought, well, whether, I don't know if that's actually true, but whether or not, that's a gross misuse of Yosemite's beauty. So that kind of planted the seed and it went from there.
Yeah. Actually, I talked to her a few days ago because I was kind of wondering about it. It was supported and it was on the valley floor. She did some crazy, remember she did some climb in the middle? And
yeah, she did. I don't remember, but it was some climb in the valley right there.
Yeah. Yeah. So she did a 5.9 called a Nutcracker at mile 57. So anyway, she kind of she was doing this run back in 2002, but she said it was supported. She said she had crew and stuff. So Peter's idea was well, why don't we kind of go out and try this unsupported and see what the hell happens?
For those who are watching that maybe haven't experienced Yosemite, pictures will never do it justice. We talk about this on the show a lot, actually, but pictures will never do it justice. Videos will never do it justice because it is landscape that is so jaw-droppingly beautiful and huge and inspiring. You know, you get to this park and there's a place called the Tunnel View as you're driving into the park. It's one of the many entrances, but you drive through this long tunnel, and as soon as you emerge from the tunnel, you look onto the valley floor, Yosemite Valley, and you see all these giant granite mountains and cliffs, 1,000-foot cliffs and Half Dome just right off in the distance, and Clouds Rest and all these incredible waterfalls. It's unlike anything on the planet. And anytime that I go, or Kim and I go, or we bring friends up there, it's just this incredible adventure. The terrain is extremely rugged. Peter, since this was kind of your idea, and since you obviously have this connection with Yosemite, what is its draw for you as far as landscape and trails?
Well, I mean, starting at probably the least important, the trails are in a national park, so the trail quality is amazing. Yeah. Which is sometimes, you know, you got to deal with some less than stellar trails. These trails are amazing, but it's like you said, you show up in Yosemite Valley, which is you know, probably the most popular portion of Yosemite, and there's these huge 3,000-foot granite walls rising on either side of you, and it makes you feel tiny. And then there's this crazy contrastingly white granite with the deep green trees in the valley and all these canyons and whatnot rising out of the valley. It's just amazingly beautiful. And that's just, you know, one portion of the park, a tiny portion of the park. So it's got a ton to offer, and it's just really, really gorgeous.
Yeah, the funny thing was I had never been there until we did this.
Really?
Yeah.
Wow.
I've lived here in California for 2.5 years, and I'd never been. And so that's part of the reason why I went. He kind of threw out this idea. We were on a morning run. He's like, I think I'm going to go try to run a 100-miler through Yosemite, but I'm by myself. And I was like, well, that sounds like a dumb idea. I'm on board. And so like the first time I saw any of the park was essentially the day we drove in. And so it was a pretty amazing way to experience it, because he mapped out the whole route. And so I was just kind of like along for the ride, and every bit of it was pretty surprising to me. And we saw, I mean, a vast portion of the park over the whole course. So it was a pretty cool way to see the park for the first time.
I mean, I can imagine what went through your mind the second you went through Tunnel View, when you see this vast expanse of cliffs and climbs and mountains, knowing that you're going into the valley floor. What went through your mind when you saw all this?
My first thought was, we drove in the night before, and so we just drove to Tunnel View to check it out. And my first thought was, we're fucked, because that was Friday afternoon, and a storm had rolled in on Thursday, and we can kind of get to this. There's been this big snowstorm that rolled in on Thursday and dumped like about 20 inches of snow in Tuolumne Meadows. And so when we actually got to Tunnel View, you couldn't see anything. It was just all cloud cover. There was sort of like a ceiling of clouds at like 6,000 feet or so. So I was just like, we're fucked. And then, so we turned around and went back to our camp. And then the second time that I saw it the next day, it was funny, Peter and I were driving in, and it was totally clear, and you just could see the entire valley, everything. And we were like, dude, we might actually have to run 100 miles today. Because we had kind of, when we were talking about this on Facebook, everyone chimed in that we were gonna like die out there because of all the snow. And we honestly kind of went into it not assuming that we're gonna be able to complete the route. So when we saw that it was so clear and there was sun and it looked like our stuff was melting down, we were kind of like, oh man, we're gonna have to run this thing now.
That's, I mean, I guess you weren't let off the hook so easily. So the valley floor is right around, correct me if I'm wrong, Peter, I think it's 4,000 or 4,500 feet or something. The valley,
4,000.
Yeah. So the valley floor sits at a lower elevation. All the climbs are just right around it. And most of the climbs are anywhere from 2 to 4 to 5,000 feet up. So how did you determine the route? Peter, you've been there before. You probably experienced some of the trails, but when you are planning on doing a 100-miler, that most of the hikes, at least from the valley floor, unless you're, you know, a part of the PCT or the John Muir Trail or something like that, you know, there are little loops or, you know, little out and backs to scenic things. How did you piece together the 100-mile course?
I've done a few of the climbs out of the valley, you know, the standard ones, the Yosemite Falls, the JMT, and 4 Mile Trail at Glacier Point. So those were kind of the starting point. And then the rest, I wanted to hit the whole park. And so the original route actually was a huge loop all the way around the outer portions of the park, kind of skipping the landmarks, Clouds Rest, et cetera, in the middle of the park. But as the snow forecast started to come in the preceding 10 days, the route was revised, I think 4 times or 5 times to keep it under 10,000 feet. And, you know, I'm actually happier with the route that we ended up planning to do, because it hit literally almost every Yosemite landmark. It's like Eagle Peak, El Cap, Clouds Rest, Half Dome, Tuolumne Meadows, Glacier Point, Nevada Falls, and then just, you know, a handful of other ones outside of those, which is amazing.
So it's a handmade route. Was there, so you basically, you kept changing the route. Is that what you just?
Yeah, like every day he'd be like, hey, and changed it up. And so I just get like a new link to a new, he did on Map My Run, so I get like a new link every day to a new route. So I was just like, cool, I don't know what any of this means, but sounds good to me.
So
right. I mean, yeah, Peter, you know all of these climbs, you know most of these trails, and Andy, you're completely clueless. You're like, sign me up, I'm just gonna show up.
Yeah. Yeah.
What were we gonna say, Peter?
Yeah, so I went up 2 weeks before to check out the southern end of the loop that we had planned. And so I went to a place outside the park called Chiquito Creek, and was going to run into the park and then run up to Merced Pass and back. And we got dumped a foot of snow on. I did no running, and that was at 6,800 feet. So I was just like, oh, man, maybe we should start revising this route now, because it's not going to melt off at 11.5, which was the high point of the original course.
It was like literally the worst possible week we could have had. We declared that it was this week, and I was just coming off of Zane Grey 2 weeks prior, so I kind of couldn't have done it any sooner, and we didn't really want to do it any later, because then it was just like Memorial Day basically, and I was going out of town, so we were just like, all right, we're going for it. Let's see what happens.
I mean, that's what's amazing. There's good chatter in the chat room too. If you're watching live, ask the questions. I'll be feeding them to both Andy and Peter here. Brandon asks, was this self-supported or crewed? You intended on this being completely self-supported.
It was, yeah. So we carried all our gear on us, which ended up being about 15 pounds. We figured it ended up being about 10% of our body weight for each of us. So that was about around 9,000 calories. That included, 40 ounces of water in bottles. And we were just filtering water out of the streams, and then all the snow gear. So we had, pants, gloves, hats, various jackets, base layers. We ended up carrying microspikes. We actually used every single thing except for the microspikes.
The microspikes.
But the microspikes were probably the heaviest thing that we had on us. So.
But yeah, actually, we'll probably get to some of the weather stuff here in a bit with the stories and stuff like that. I'm just really intrigued as to how the route changed. The impetus behind doing 100-mile. Why not make it a longer route or anything like that? Or is that maybe something that you're thinking about doing in the future, Peter?
Funny you should ask.
Yeah, funny you should ask. So 100's the golden number in ultra running these days, right? So you say you want to get to triple digits, but then I made that first route that did skip all the really cool landmarks like Clouds Rest and Half Dome, etc. So just for fun, I made a route that did the original route plus, obviously slightly modified, and hit all these cool landmarks that are, really gorgeous places. And it ended up being about 160 miles on Map My Run. So on our run, it was coming in about 10% short. So that was probably like 175 miles or so.
Damn.
Yeah, Map My Run is obviously not really exact. So as we were running, we kind of realized that the route we had planned was still probably like 110. Or so 112, like if we completed the whole thing. So we got a little learning to do and kind of tweaking it to get it down to 100, or we could just do it.
Right, or you could just do it and stop whining about it. No, just kidding. You guys just planned on doing this in a weekend, so this was something that kind of popped up in Peter's brain, and you're like, let's just pick a weekend to go you drove up on a Thursday and kind of planned on making it a Thursday through Sunday thing, or did you have a set time?
Yeah, we're going to do it Friday, and then the snow rolled in on Thursday, so we had to push it back a day, which was good because conditions would have been really bad on Friday. We wouldn't, by the time we were out on Saturday, some of the beginning of the snow had started to melt off, so we actually had a really good run up until it started getting dark, and we started getting the higher parts of the park and where there was kind of more wooded, and it really hadn't melted off. So we started on Saturday morning at 8:42, I believe, was the exact time we started, and then I think we ended up finishing Sunday around 11 the next morning.
Okay. A question in the chat room from David: did you guys lose a bet? Is that what made this happen? Was there some sort of betting involved with like in the PMR club or anything like that?
I wish we could blame it on that. No, it was literally his dumb idea, and I was like, all right, sounds good. Let's do it.
And David asked a good question. We'll probably get to this in a bit about getting water and refilling water. We're going to hold on to that question because I'm pretty sure that we'll touch it at some point during the course of this show. All right, so let's kind of get to the good stuff, which I'm really excited about. Andy wrote a great blog. There's a great kind of recap of the whole experience. You're welcome to go check that out during the show because there's also really great photos. I was trying to get the photo thing to work on my computer, but it wasn't working tonight for some reason. But if you go to I even ran this far.tumblr.com. The link is in the description of this live show. You can go over there and check out the photos kind of as we go through the story. I will just attest that Yosemite weather during the springtime is completely unpredictable. So I'm not going to spoil what happened to you guys. I'm just going to say that it has happened to me as well, just being there. And then you're like, oh, it's 85 degrees. And you wake up the next morning and there's 8 inches of snow on your tent. Like that has happened multiple times. So let's talk a bit about you getting to the park, you getting ready, getting hyped, and then weather rolls in.
Well, I mean, weather rolled in beforehand, so that was.
Oh, it did.
We were like headed into the storm, and we posted on Facebook, and basically all of our very kind friends were like, "You're fucked. You're gonna die. Please don't go out there. You're gonna die." Like I was actually getting pretty worried, to be honest, just because of everybody else. So we weren't. I wouldn't say hyped is the word. I think we were like. cautiously practical about how far we were actually going to be able to make it, but we had put it out there, so we kind of had to go. So we rolled in on.
You have to Facebook prove it.
Yeah, we like. I don't know. There's something really nice though about self-supported adventures like this, though, or not even self-supported, but just kind of adventure running. And I kind of try to do at least one major run like this a year. This is the farthest I've ever done that, but it's so different. You kind of roll in and you can start whenever you want, and it's I don't know. We had a really good time. Dom and Katie kind of came out. Dom Grossman and Katie DeSplinter, Krista Scott was there, and we just kind of all hung out the night before, and it was nice. I think they mostly came because they didn't say this, but I think they thought we were also going to die, so they kind of wanted to like be around to make sure we didn't. Yeah, so we kind of just. I don't know. It was much nicer than prepping for a race. We just kind of hang out with friends, and we kind of rolled out to like a start the next morning in the valley. Yeah.
So at this point, there's weather, there's snow. How much snow had rolled in at that point in the valley, or was it just up top?
I don't know that any actually made it down to 4,000 feet. I think it was mostly rain down there. We started getting some vestiges of snow, maybe 5,500 or 6,000 feet on Saturday morning. So Friday, I mean, I think it probably made it down to about 6,000.
Yeah.
But not too much. Tuolumne Meadows, which is at 8,800, got 20 inches.
20 plus inches, I believe, is the.
Jeez.
So we were actually kind of, as we were climbing out of the valley, we took this. We started near Yosemite, or I guess a little west of Yosemite Falls.
Yeah, at El Cap Meadows is where we started.
And Peter found this. There's this trail that's not even on most maps. Like I had an Nat Geo on me, and it didn't have it on there, and some of the other maps didn't. It's called Rock Slides, and this is an old trail that climbs out and just kind of does like a really long switch back up. And it used to be paved, back in like the 50s or so, I guess.
Yeah, back when they thought it was a good idea to pave all the trails out of the valley in Yosemite.
America. And so there's all these like huge boulders that have fallen down on it. It's actually pretty cool for that reason. The whole trail's destroyed. So we started climbing out of that, and we started catching a little bit of snow, but as we were getting even higher, it started to open up, so it was all melting off. So we actually were really heartened as we were going up. It was we were feeling pretty good, and we headed up to El Cap, and it was really, there was like a little bit of mushy area going up there, but it was all burned off. So we were kind of thinking like, hey, we might actually make this thing. We might actually not hit too much snow. And we're like, we know we had to go up to 10,000 feet twice later on in the course, but maybe by the time we get there, it'll be burned off a little bit, enough to be passable. So that was kind of our hope at that point.
So I'm actually, before we move on too far, I was really curious about this trail that you started on. Since it's not in any of these maps or anything like that, how did you find out about this trail? Is it passable on a good day? Is it something that is worth exploring? Because I was actually really curious about that.
Absolutely worth exploring.
Yeah, it's cool.
There's only one spot where I don't exactly know what happened with the trail, but instead of being a trail like this, it kind of goes like this, and then you're kind of off trail, snaking straight up the hill to get back to this paved section. So it's almost like the trail slid down the hill. But Map My Run actually has linked in to their their map profiles some of the old USGS maps, and so it's on the old USGS topos. And you look at it there, and you wonder why it's not on Google Maps or on some of these newer maps. It's because it's not really maintained. But it is known. People backpack on it still and everything, so it's not like it's this crazy out of the way trail. And after running it, it's by far the easiest, most well-graded way to get out of the valley.
Wow.
And Snow Creek, 4 Mile, John Muir Trail, Mist Trail, all are steep and nasty in their own ways. And this was nicely graded and happily runnable the whole time.
Yeah, I was like, this is what it's going to be like the whole time. It's great. Nice.
Awesome.
Yeah, we had a good run up. We felt really great. So I was like, this Yosemite thing isn't no big deal.
The views are great. The trails are easy. Let's get it done. Yeah. So at this point, sunny outside, snow on the ground?
Oh, yeah, a little bit here and there.
As we're getting higher, yeah, a little bit of snow, especially in the trees.
Yeah.
Okay.
But really nothing bad. We were just like, we were kind of farting around, and Dom and Katie ran with us. The course basically that he mapped out basically took us up on Rock Slide up to the top of El Cap, and then bounced over and hit Eagles Peak, and then we came down to Yosemite Falls. So it's something like 23 miles, I think, basically back down to the main parking area. So we kind of they ended up just running that with us.
Got it.
It was nice and leisurely. It was good. We really didn't take it that fast. We took it was like almost 7 hours to do the 23 miles, but we were just kind of having fun.
Well,
yeah, you knew you had a huge weekend to go, so there's no point in pushing you that early. Well, that's good that you got to run with friends. We've had Dom and Katie on the show before, obviously, for those of you who are watching live, and they're awesome. So I know that there's also pictures of them and stuff, and the whole crew doing their thing over on the recap blog as well. So at that point, you make a loop, you come back to the valley. What was your route heading again back up and out?
I guess I'm the unofficial route master. We did a route I've never actually done, but really wanted to do, which is another great way to get to Tuolumne Meadows. Tenaya Canyon via the Snow Creek Trail. So you run up Tenaya Canyon, past Mirror Lake, and then up the Snow Creek Trail, and then up towards Tenaya Lake, and then eventually to Tuolumne Meadows.
Okay.
Yeah.
And were you encountering any weather at that point? Was it just kind of an easy jaunt? I don't want to say easy, but
I think it would have been really nice. The weather was super temperate and sunny, like not a cloud in the sky, except that I was wearing black tights and a black smart wool base layer, so it actually got kind of hot.
Yeah, we were in like full black gear because we'd worn we had base layers on, and
right.
I don't know why they only basically make black base layers, and so we were both we're cooking in the sun, thinking that we were going to be pretty cold all day. So the climb up Snow Creek was actually, it was like the opposite extreme. It was just crazy hot. And it was kind of, you know, it was entering like mid-afternoon, so we're hitting it right at like peak sun. So we were pretty toasted going up Snow Creek. That was not very enjoyable. I mean, there's an amazing view as you're going up.
Yeah. And I know that the valley can get super touristy as well. And that was another question is, did you run into a large number of tourists, or did people ever give you that, what are you guys doing? Any of the stink eye?
The only time we ran into that was coming down Yosemite Falls. And so there were 4 of us kind of like bombing down those steps. And Katie, so we go like flying past, Katie's on the back, and she said she heard somebody, what did they say? It was somebody
said,
I hope
they have good dental insurance.
And she's like, I hope they have good dental insurance, and meaning like we're gonna fall and eat our teeth. And then there's something that's like, people like that are what are, you know, leeching on the system, or it was like something, it was like those people kind of something, and then which was followed up by, I hope they just fall off the side of the cliff. So yeah, so we were like, I mean, we didn't hear any of this transpire, but Katie heard the whole thing, and we were just like, holy shit. I mean, we were like, we're professionals. Like 2 of us are engineers, 2 of us are like advertising copywriters. We have real jobs. We all have insurance, respectable jobs. It was a weird comment, but that was really the only time we ran into people, was coming down Yosemite Falls, really. Yeah. Other than that, like honestly, we had the park to ourselves, which was very cool. Knowing how
rare. Yeah, that's rare.
It was kind of, I guess it was like the week before, it was before Memorial Day, so it was right before they get super crowded. It was like the last possible weekend. And then, I mean, once we got out of the valley and we're going up Snow Creek, we saw like 6 people maybe the whole time. And then later on in the park, we were totally by ourselves because the road was closed.
Highway 120 was closed from the snow.
So once we climbed up Snow Creek, we were literally just by ourselves for like 20 miles in any direction. By the time we got back to the very back part of the park, it was pretty kind of terrifying to be that far away from any other human being, because you don't, you know, like when you run a race, you never experience that. You're always, you know, a few minutes away from an aid station in either direction, and you know, no more than probably 10 at most. And this was like, we were just out in the middle of nowhere by the time it was getting dark. And it's kind of a little terrifying to kind of be that far away from somebody, you know.
I didn't tell Andy that.
Go ahead, Peter.
Yeah, Tuolumne Meadows always has you know, rangers and professionals living there, and then Sunrise High Sierra Camp is also really accessible from the JMT where we were. So
it felt terrifying to me.
I didn't tell him that, so it added some additional suspense to his run.
I like that. That's a little evil laugh out of Peter. Like, I'm not gonna help Andy sleep better tonight. I'm gonna hold these secrets dear to my heart and watch him suffer.
Details.
I think that's kind of what 100% separates this from any other typical like race experience, is the fact that you're alone out there. So you at this point in your course, you're running away from probably the most popular area of Yosemite, at least the largest population and resorts and campsites and stuff like that. You're heading, what, 30 miles in the opposite direction of any of that?
Yeah, pretty much.
Yeah, and now, Peter, have you done any adventures like this? Any sort of adventure ultras?
Adventure ultras, not
just unsanctioned.
No, I mean, I love going out. I think I'm probably 50-50 split preference-wise on running really far by myself, self-supported, or just doing stuff like that, or running a supported race. I love the outdoors. I was raised out there backpacking and whatnot. So for me, it's just more stuff you have to carry to go on a really fun run.
What about you, Andy? Have you ever done anything like this, unsupported?
Yeah, I mean, I've done some stuff. Nothing 100 miles. I've done like the Zion Traverse and all that stuff. And the Camino de Santiago. I did a lot of that about a year and a half ago. I ran most of that thing. So yeah,
Is there ever that sense of danger or like you just kind of mentioned, the loneliness or that aspect of running away from civilization, and that kind of is a little bit more daunting? Does that ever kind of influence what you guys are doing, or are you very okay with it?
No, I mean this one was this was like okay, this is legit, not total playtime because we had the weather working against us. There probably wasn't too many folks out there to help if we needed it. And then on top of that, we had a really tough time once we hit the snow. We had a really tough time wayfinding because 20 inches of snow dumped on the trail, and the trail's not the trail's not marked. Once we got into JMT and that whole getting over to JMT, going up to China Lake, none of that's marked really. So you're just looking for the trail's going like this, and you're kind of looking for the snow to go just kind of the ever so slightly dip, and you're kind of following that. So we got lost for a little while at one point, which was a little scary just because like right as the sun is setting, we found the trail right as the sun set, so we were okay. But that was a little freaky. I think at that point I was kind of getting a little nervous about that. So I mean, it's like it's no joke if you get out there and something goes bad. I had a bad hamstring too this whole time. On top of that, so all morning I was running with this really bad hamstring that was super tight in a way that I've never had it before, and I kind of knew that going in, and so I was just being cautious all day that I was like, if we get out here and something snaps, something goes bad, like that's a 30-mile hike back. Like that's not good. So that was kind of an added element of danger / fun, depending on how you look at it.
Yeah, we're getting some good questions in the chat room too, and I know we're getting kind of to the good part of your guys' story. From Randy, backcountry permits, bear cans for food, all are required. Did you guys have either?
Good question. I actually called the Yosemite Rangers and I said, hey, what's the deal with permitting if I don't plan on sleeping, but I will be traveling overnight? And they said, you don't have to have a permit if you're not going to camp. So if you don't camp out, you don't need a backcountry permit. Same deal with bear cans. If you don't plan on camping, you don't need a bear can because you're always awake. And you're just like a little rabbit running in front of the bear, and the bear's just kind of chasing you the whole way. And they said you can definitely outrun the bears because they're sleepy from the cold. No, if you're awake the whole time and you're not asleep, then you don't have to worry about habituating the bears to you as a food supply. So you don't need to carry a bear can either. That would have added a bit of weight to our packs if we were running with bear cans.
Yeah, I mean, I have one of the UD fast packs, and I'm like, oh, this has got plenty of room for a bear canister and stuff like that. It's obviously for well intended for those overnight trips where you do need to set up and pitch a tent, or even if it's a little lean-to or something like that. Let's see, the other question here. I just lost it. This is from the Running Wog. Were there any times during the course of the weekend that you thought, oh shit, we could be in trouble?
No, not really. To expand on what we were talking about earlier with route finding, I use a really sweet app called Gaia GPS, and it has several different topos you can download. And so they're all offline maps. So I downloaded a couple different offline topos to use with GPS, which obviously you can, or maybe not obviously, you can get anywhere because it's satellite based. And so for route finding, it's not that, we had a compass out and we're trying to head in a direction or try to, find a peak to go towards in the dark. We had GPS and it was working out so that we could find our way through the snow covered sections.
Yeah, but we got off for a little bit, and we were kind of stomping around, and that was right as it was getting really snowy too. And
let's talk about this time, because the sun is setting at this point. You're heading out. And I just know from reading the race recap and hearing the stories, snow.
Yeah.
More and more snow.
So we were at the furthest, we're at pretty far out in our route. We'd kind of gone up all the way up the valley, up the canyon, and the sun was like just setting. I think it was around like an 8 o'clock sunset, but it kind of, because it was a little bit, there was, some moisture in the air. It gave us a little extra sunlight, but we got off route and we're kind of stumbling around looking for it. And it was the first time where we saw a trail that was just nobody had passed on. No one had been back there at all. So,
Wow.
So this was just like no trail, just snow. Where are we going? And so we stumbled around for a while. We got out his Gaia app, which was like kind of a lifesaver.
Yeah.
I'm glad I know about that, because I would never do this again without it. And if we hadn't had that, we would have been pretty fucked. And so we were kind of stumbling around. It took us like 45 minutes, I bet, to kind of really find where we're going. And by the time we did, we found the trail, and then realized that the trail was all snowy, but it had kind of started to melt off, which was like, okay, great. The snow is melting. This is good. Oh, wait, this is really bad because the snow is turning into a creek. So by the time the sun, we're like now deep in the woods, the sun has just set. We finally found the trail, but it's all snow, but underneath the snow is just a layer of like mush and water. And so at this point it was like, you basically have to follow the trail, looking again for like that little indentation that's kind of just slightly turned down. And but when you're on it, the good news is you have it. Bad news is that it's just like a little creek underneath it. So we were just like trouncing on. Our feet are soaked, started to get soaked by this point. We hadn't really dealt with any water yet. And that was pretty miserable. That's like the beginning of our like proper misery for the rest of the night.
And the temperatures are dropping, I'm assuming.
Yeah, they were kind of dropping steadily. By like late night, we were watching the weather all day, and it said it wasn't supposed to drop below freezing. We were checking on the mountain forecasts and checking the peaks that we're going to go over, and it said it wasn't supposed to drop below freezing, but it definitely did, because stuff started icing over. So it probably dropped below 30 at some point. We kind of started just like adding clothes throughout the night, kites and stuff.
And are you having to basically live off the Gaia app and just kind of follow your GPS beacon along the topo map, or are you able to see the trail at this point?
It's kind of a combination. We found the tracks of a unfortunate, maybe, JMT hiker who had apparently camped out at Cathedral Lake and hiked down the JMT. So we had a really nice boot pack to follow that had melted and solidified into essentially boot pack stairs that you would expect there. But then when we got to Cathedral Lake, the tracks disappeared. The trail was relatively followable, and then we would rely on the app for navigation outside of being able to see the trail in some of the few sections that were just blank snowfields. But I've done that section of the JMT twice now, going the other direction. So at least I kind of knew the terrain and ridges that we could follow that would take us where we would need to go if it did get to that point. But the app was working. My phone's battery was not suffering from the cold because I kept it on my chest. So we were able to use the app pretty consistently.
I'd never been back there, so I had no idea what was going on. I was like,
I was going to say, Andy, you put a lot of trust, a lot of faith in Peter and his apps.
I know. No, it was good. I mean, he obviously knows the park, and I was studying. You can only study a map so much to understand what it's like before you get there, and then you get there, like, oh, I get it. We're going around this lake, or there's this highway. So like, I'm pretty studious when it comes to races and logistics and races and studying the maps and the aid stations and all that. So I did a lot of studying beforehand, but again, it's like there's no way to prepare when you get there, and then when you get there, you start to kind of connect the dots.
Yeah. In the chat room, question from Glenn: do you guys carry a safety beacon like a Spot or similar?
Nope.
Do not.
These guys are rugged. Badass runners. They don't need the Spot.
It was definitely suggested to us, but we were like, nah, whatever.
I'm not against a Spot per se. I just don't want to pay for the service that I'll probably use maybe once a year. So
right.
I rely on running with a buddy who can run 70 miles to safety, or
on his gimp leg with a hamstring broken.
It's like a lot of these things where you're making trade-offs for safety versus weight and things like that, like fast packing or running a long distance. So I try to be prepared. Like I had a rudimentary first aid, and we both had emergency bivvies and things like that. So that,
toothpicks and bubble gum, rudimentary, right? Yeah,
bubble gum.
Yeah, it sounds very nonchalant, like how we're talking about it, but we were obviously, it's all about risk, risk management and deciding the trade-offs. So you just have to be smart about it.
Yeah, I would never question the fact that you guys wouldn't have done this had you not felt comfortable or safe. You guys both have your head screwed on tight. One of you is an engineer, and the other one's a party animal, right, Andy?
That's right.
Party animal.
Got VK shirt on.
So let's talk then again. You're going well past sunset at this point. Moonlight, if there's even a moon visible with cloud cover. I don't know if it's cloudy at this point. You're trudging for hours in the mush, the ice cold water, trying to follow the trail, getting off occasionally and getting back on. What's going through your heads at this point? What mile are you at? And is this the point where you decide we got to finish this bad boy, or kind of what's going on mentally?
Oh man, so I guess starting in this in the section where the snow started, it started to get dark, and then our feet started to get wet. An hour or 2 hours later or whatever, I knew I had trench foot going on.
Yeah,
and that's I don't know if people have seen the picture of Andy's feet after we were done. My feet look similar. It's just where it gets all pruny, like you see your hands after you get out of the pool or whatever. And my feet were hurting pretty good, but I figured I could, deal with it. And that was, I guess it wasn't puppy dogs and rainbows trudging through the snow.
Yeah. I had already had a really hard year to begin with. So I did, like you said, I did herd back in January and had some good desert races earlier on, Monument Valley and Antelope Canyon, and then Zangray. So I don't think I was as miserable as it was at hurt, for sure. Hurt is its own awful, terrible thing that no one should ever do. But it was pretty damn miserable. We were just hiking through the snow, and at some point I think he turned to me. He's like, we've gone 9 miles in 5 hours. And that was just, and I kind of hadn't put together how long it had been. I knew the mileage kind of what we were doing, but the time and the mileage combo was just
it was crushing.
Just, totally crushing. And we were just hiking along. It sucked. There's no other word for it. It just flat out sucked. And the one scary thing was, I realized we'd been hiking for 4 hours. We'd been I was running as much as we could for 4 hours, and neither of us had stopped to fill our bottles. And to go back to the question about water, we had, I had a 220 ounces, and you had 22.
2 24-ounce bottles.
24. So we had bottles, and we would stop. We both actually had the Sawyer Mini filters, which are great. It's basically you just you scoop it up in the water, and then you squeeze it out through the filter into your bottle. But the problem is that you have to scoop up the water in this little tiny pouch, and so when it's below freezing and you're dipping your hand into these ice cold streams, it was so miserable to do that we basically, I think unconsciously stopped kind of drinking water because we didn't want to have to do that again. I remember one stop in the middle of the night. Once I realized that, I was like, we have to drink, and we forced ourselves to stop and get more water. But I was just I don't want to get water, and this sucks. And so we went a really long time without water. I mean, obviously it was cold, but we were pretty bundled up. It wasn't so much any part of the body. It was just the feet were in really bad shape. And I have a pair of old New Balance 110s. They winterized them 2 years ago, and they only sold them for a few months. But they're all waterproof, and I wish I had worn those. But we just had
the booties, right? Or they're boot around the ankle. Yeah.
Yeah, they zip all the way up, and they're waterproof. And I kind of wish I had worn those because that would have made my life a lot easier. But we were just like, our feet were just totally soaked down all night. And the JMT is so rutted out that by the time we got in the JMT, it had literally just turned into a creek. At certain points, it was actually like a legit, 2 foot wide creek. And so there's snowbanks on either side. So you have the creek running. There's snowbanks on either side. So it's like, all right, well, I can't be in the creek, so I'm going in this like 2 feet of snow. But then every once in a while you'd fall or you'd like miss it and you just fall into the creek.
And the snow had water running under portions of it where it ducked off from the trail. Where they put the water bars or whatever, and so you sometimes you punch through the snow into a river of ice cold, frigid water.
Just curse.
And we knew that it was below freezing because the top of the creek was ice. It was a sheet of ice.
Yeah,
it looked really cool, but it was a really cool marbled pattern of frozen ice. But then you punch through the ice. It's like, dang it.
Were there any moments of levity or positivity during both literal and figurative dark time? Was there any moment that you went, I'm really glad I'm doing this? Or was it hours of just, this is stupid, just cursing the gods?
I was more the latter for me. I don't know that there was any point where I was like, this is great. I'm having a great time.
It's not in the snow section. The snow is pretty much from 11 p.m. to 5 a.m. So like 6 hours straight.
And what miles were those?
I don't know,
40 to
51 or something.
No, it was almost to 60 because 60 was Half Dome. 64 was Half Dome. So we were in the snow till like 60.
Yeah, anyone who knows the JMT there, the switchbacks after you pass Half Dome and start climbing up towards Cathedral Pass and Sunrise High Sierra, that's finally where the snow started to abate, was in there.
Yeah. But basically the route that he had mapped out was we were going to go up over, follow JMT, go up over Cathedral Pass at 10,000 feet. And even when we're going there, our choice was basically, we know it's going to be really snowy going up over this thing. It's already kind of getting bad as we're getting towards Swollen Meadows. So going up and over that thing is going to be really bad.
Really bad.
And so we were kind of like, well, our choices are, we go up and over this thing, or we turn around and we go back, 30 miles, 25 miles back down to the valley. So it was like, that would have been the probably smart option. But at that point, it was like, we can't do that. So we kind of made this decision. We're like, well, we'll just go over the Cathedral Pass. We'll gut that out. And then once we get over, we had we had to go up to 10,000 feet again over Cloud's Rest. And that was, at that point, the good thing was once we get over Cathedral Pass, that's JMT, and it takes you back down to the valley eventually. So the route was going to go Cloud's Rest over in this kind of loop and then get us back to JMT and go down to make it to 100. So we got to mile, it was like 52, I think, was the turn off to Cloud's Rest. And we were something like 18 hours in. And again, we kind of farted around earlier in the day, so it wasn't like, it wasn't like 8 hours of misery or 18 hours of misery. But we were like, well, we had 18 hours in, 52 miles, and I thought Cloud's Rest was closer. And Peter informed me that it was another 15 miles away. And
well, just to clarify the route a little bit, just in case we've got some aficionados following on.
You have a lot of people asking for the route. They want to see.
I'll send you a link to it on My Run afterwards, and you can put it up on afterwards. But so you get to almost to Sunrise High Sierra, which is up in this really cool meadow in the I guess semi-high country between Swollen Meadows and the valley. And the route called to hang a left and head east down towards Merced High Sierra Camp. We're going to drop down there. We weren't going to make the left over to Merced High Sierra Camp. Instead, we're going to cut back over, hit the JMT, and then do this loop up to the north side of Cloud's Rest, and then down to the Half Dome Trail, and then up to Half Dome and back. And before the same guy asked that question again, it was 2 weeks before the Half Dome cables were up, but because the snow was gone, they put the cables up 2 weeks early. And so we were able to secure a Half Dome permit in the daily lottery which included all of the Half Dome spots, not just the reserved daily spots. So we weren't going to bandit Half Dome.
Yeah, that's great. Did you? So the original plan then was were you going to try to do Half Dome without permits, like without the cables and stuff?
No, actually, I put that in once I read that they were opening up these Half Dome spots. Otherwise, we probably just would have gone to the Subdome instead of trying to climb the cables while they're down. It's totally doable, but definitely a little bit sketchy, especially if there's been some weather, because it's just a super steep granite face for 400 vertical feet.
Yeah, a little bit slippery during weather.
Before, and each time I just brought a harness along, like an ultralight harness, and clipped onto the cable. So if I did take a swinger, I could stop. But yeah, we weren't going to do it 60 miles into a.
Yeah. So to be clear, I've never been to Yosemite before, and Peter's like, yeah, mile. In the original route, it was going to be like mile.
It's like 65 or something.
No, if we'd gone all the way to Clouds Rest.
Yeah, we still have it.
Well, whatever. So anyway, we're like, this was like deep in the latter portion of the run. He was like, yeah, and then we'll just go up to Half Dome. We'll go up to Half Dome. We'll kind of go up the cables and whatever. And me, again, not knowing exactly what that meant, I was like, okay, cool, sounds awesome. And then we get there, and we've been running for, we've been up for like 24 hours at this point.
It is now light out.
It's light out. Sunrise. The very first people are starting to go up it. And we go up the Subdome. We hike up there. And we get up, and I like see what the cables and what Half Dome means, and I was like, "Oh hell no!" I was like, "No way!" And he made me feel like he was like, "Yeah, let's go up." And we're totally drained from the night. We're just totally out of it. I've been, again, we've been running for 24 hours, probably up for 28, and. Like now we're just gonna like pull ourselves up these cables up going up Half Dome. I was like, absolutely not. And he made me feel
it's pretty intense even with like full strength, first thing of the day. It's still it's sketch. Yeah.
I would imagine so. I've only seen it at mile 64 of an ultra that was I've been running all night through the snow and my feet were about to fall off. Like literally
totally numb. Yeah.
So he was like, oh come on, let's do it. And I was like, Peter, there's no way in hell I'm going up that with you. And I finally talked him down out of it. So I would like to say that I feel like I saved our lives from that move. I know for a fact I would have fallen to my death if we had tried to go up the cables at that point. So
if it makes you feel any better, both Kim and I, my wife, have attempted Half Dome twice. The first time we were very young, like nubile hikers, and we couldn't do it. There's that vertigo that you get up there, and we were both just like, no. And it was very touristy. This was before permitting, and there was hundreds of tourists and children going on the switchbacks in the Subdome. And the second time we attempted it, we got to a point when there was a man laying on the granite, paralyzed with fear, a father pushing his 8-year-old daughter who was in tears up, and we both looked at each other and were like, we are surrounded by people who don't value their own lives, let alone the people around them. So we also didn't take it for granted and turned around. So, hey, we also haven't summited. It's okay. We'll go back and do it someday, Andy. How about that?
Yeah, let's go do it. Just
but
maybe
not at mile 65 of an ultra or whatever.
16 mile like it should be.
Yeah, not a good idea.
So at that point, were you really, really kind of done with the day and really excited to be grinding down back into the valley for the final time?
Yeah, this was one of those. The thing was, the night just took it totally out of us. And I love, during racing, I love the night. Like, nights are my favorite because it's a chance to restart your race. You can come alive, and it kind of puts a new perspective on the race. But this was just like nothing but misery. And we're making this sound terrible. It was cool. It was an amazing experience, and it would have been great if we hadn't had the worst weekend possible in terms of weather to do it. By the end, we were kind of getting at this. We were at mile 52, and basically we could have turned left to go add this extra loop, go out to Clouds Rest, or keep going or shoot down the JMT back to the valley. And it was like, well, 15 miles to Clouds Rest. It doesn't look like the snow is going to let up. We kind of thought that coming up and over Cathedral. We were like, well, we'll be on the south side, maybe the snow during the day has melted off a little bit. If we can get over to the south side, we're hoping that there's been some snow melt off of that. And we got up and over, and it was just like, nope, absolutely not.
No change.
And so just imagining, again, 9 miles, 5 hours, doing 15 up to Clouds Rest, and then you're coming down. It was just like, we were doing the math on it, and we weren't going to be finishing until Sunday evening. And we had people waiting on us. The thing is, we had people waiting on us, and there's no cell reception, except very patchy in the valley. So there was no way to let people know that we were okay. And I think that was one of the things too. If we knew no one was worrying about us, we probably would have. I think we might have continued, but just knowing that there were people waiting on us getting back, and there was no way to signal that we were going to be okay. That was just like, we can't put them through that. So that was kind of we got to this point in the trail, and it was like, it was like 3 a.m.
Grunting like ogres, like, ooh, ooh.
We were staring at each other, and there were like two, it's like two roads diverged in the woods, like literally. And we were just standing at each other like 8 feet away. We didn't want to even be near each other because neither of us wanted to admit that we wanted to turn back.
Oh, and the rocks to sit on were on opposite sides of the trail.
Yeah, and we were just kind of like, if we go this way back home, we were like we could only make noises.
Yeah, it was that moment.
And so it took us, like 10 minutes to make the decision, which we knew we both knew we should have made, but we couldn't.
Right.
We couldn't express it because we were just so messed up that we were like, we have to cut it short. So that's when we headed down the JMT, just kept going all the way down. So.
And you think that this would cut your 100-mile goal short by how much?
A lot. The original plan, I guess we cut out the loop, and then the bottom half of the park was supposed to be a 25-mile loop. So it would probably have been a 30-mile cutoff, but we're running a little bit long. So even with the 30-mile cutoff, we still ended up at 72 miles.
Yeah. Yeah. But I mean, to be honest, I didn't expect us to make it that far to begin with because I said we were going to die.
So much weather. Yeah.
So it was kind of like, well, we've made it this far. I mean, I feel like this is pretty respectable considering the conditions, and, so we were fine with it. I think we have unfinished business with the route, but it was the best that could have happened on that day, I think,
And you're finishing up by running down into the valley, which, again, this is probably a really cool sight for you, Andy, never having seen it before, especially from these perspectives and stuff. What was it like running down, knowing that you were about to wrap it up? And I think there was even like a fortuitous event running into friends and all that kind of stuff.
Yeah, I mean, it was that run down was incredible, but it was also just like long. At that point, once you've decided that it's over, I think once we got to on top of the subdome, I was like, okay, we're done now. We're close to done. And I had no idea what the route was, so we still had 8 miles left to go, I think, at that point. And
and half of which is really nice and peaceful. The other half is pretty steep and can be pretty gnarly. Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, 8 miles plus the bonus miles to get from the Happy Isles trailhead all the way down the Valley Loop Trail where we parked.
Yeah. So we came down. I mean, it was great. I mean, the sights we went down through Vernal, and there was an amazing rainbow over that as we we're going down. And but like you said, the crazy thing was we ran to Peter's car, which we'd parked by kind of in the parking lot, and as we're running up to it, we expected that Katie and Dom and Christo were going to be like off hiking for a while, and we'd see them like later in the day, and we just hear, "Oh my God, what are you guys doing here?"
That's Dom.
That was Dom. and the three of them are just standing there like, "What are you doing here?" And like of all the coincidences, they had driven in, they had parked, and it was obviously like mad parking, like crazy parking down there, and they parked directly across from us in the parking lot, and it was in the 5 minutes that they had gotten out of the car and were grabbing all their gear to go out on a run that we happened to run in at that exact moment and caught them. which was just, I mean, crazy considering like all the times we stopped, like all the things that could have delayed us or got us faster by like 3 minutes and we wouldn't have seen them. I mean, all the things that could have delayed them or whatever. And it was like, it was so perfect. So we ran in, and that was pretty awesome to have like it was like an actual finish line, you know, seeing our 3 friends there. So that was one of the best parts, to be honest.
The finish was the best part.
Would you guys ever do it again? Are you guys going to go back and get your revenge on the unofficial Yosemite 100?
Definitely. Absolutely. I mean, the course is amazing.
Yeah.
And when there's no snow, it's totally runnable and fun. It's just the scheduling worked out with our summer racing schedule to recover and then build for the races. So maybe sometime this fall, or if not, hopefully Yosemite's not going anywhere.
I don't think so. It's been there for 2,000 years, few million, thousand, billion years.
We can only hope.
Yeah. I mean, I was gonna say this time I'll actually know the park, so I'll know it, which is maybe bad or good. I don't know.
It's good if you have a lot of snow to go through and you know where the passes are going to subside.
Yeah.
Do you would you use the original course? Would you use the adapted course? Any of the changes?
I think the adapted course is actually pretty rad.
Yeah.
You lose a little bit of pure geography encircled by the route. It kind of looks like a weird butterfly instead of a big circle, but the things that you cross over during it are totally worth it and really amazing.
Yeah, I mean, I basically saw every landmark of Yosemite in my first 24 hours ish there. It's pretty hard to do. It's one of the upsides of ultra running is that it could have taken me years to go hike and see all the things that I went and saw in basically a day, doing Yosemite for the first time. So that was pretty cool.
Even some of which you had to trudge through at 3 a.m. But you still got to see it. I think this is pretty amazing. I'm really drawn to what you guys did just because Yosemite, like many people, it has a really kind of personal thing. There's a lot of trails there that I need to go back and get my revenge on because they beat me up in the past, or I want to go attempt things now with a little bit more skill and stuff like that. So I was really drawn to this story. I think I was traveling or camping or something this weekend, and when I heard that you guys were doing it, I was like, oh God, this would be so amazing to go witness and follow these guys. It's damn impressive what you guys just even attempted. I can't wait to see what happens when you guys attempt it again, and hopefully you do it first before someone else steals your loop and goes and does it, which is going to happen probably this weekend, guys.
Yeah, go see it. Who cares?
I'm going to send you the link to the loop, and I hope that somebody goes and does it.
It's cool.
Somebody deserves to have a really fun, self-supported 100-mile loop in it. And I haven't honestly, I haven't touched the southern loop. Everything south of Panorama Trail and Glacier Point I've never been to, and so I'm really excited to go check that out.
Yeah, send me the link and I'll put it in the description of this video. So for those who are listening on the podcast can come get it, or for those who are watching, they can just click the link and check it out. I want to talk about gear. I think we should do that in the post show. Before we get to the post show, Andy, I don't know if I've done this with you when we did the show after Hurt 100. Maybe I did. But Peter, I know I haven't done it with you. New guests, I like to ask a series of rapid fire questions, and you can usually answer with the very first thing that pops into your head. Andy, did I do this with you?
Did, and there was like one question I couldn't answer last time.
You'll get your revenge now. So now's your chance to get that question right. I'm just going to ask the questions. There's only a couple of them. They're very easy, Peter, so you don't have to worry. And basically, I'll ask a question. Andy, you answer. Peter, you answer. I'll ask a question. Let me know when you guys are ready, and I'll get started.
Good.
Yeah.
First race.
Mine was like first ultra or first 100.
I would say first race.
Running race?
Right. The Holland Aspen Marathon in Bend, Oregon.
Rock and roll half marathon, San Jose.
Favorite running movie?
I'm going to say Unbreakable just because everyone's going to say it.
Yeah, Unbreakable is pretty darn good.
Yeah.
Trails or road?
Trails.
And single track.
Specifically single track.
Specifically single track. Like you said.
Favorite place to run?
I love Colorado, like up in the Rockies. Indian Peaks Wilderness is one of my favorite loops to go do.
High Sierra, absolutely.
Bucket list race.
Shit. Barclays one day, but not yet.
UTMB for me.
Actually, I'm going to revise Big's Backyard Ultra. I really want to do that one, and I don't know whether Laz is going to do it this year or not. But that's actually, I haven't seen anything on it, but I really want to go do that one.
And UTMB, Peter, is that what you said?
Yeah, absolutely. That thing is crazy.
Guilty pleasure television show.
You go. I'm pro wrestling.
Oh wow! I don't have a TV, but if I did, it would probably be archery.
Nice.
Pro wrestling? That is the first time anyone's had the courage to say that on the show.
Every single person on the show used to watch pro wrestling. I don't keep up with it as much anymore, but I saw an awesome documentary called Wrestling with Shadows, all about Bret Hart. It's on Netflix. It's awesome. It's all about his career. I watched it the other day.
Favorite post-race indulgence or post-adventure in Yosemite indulgence?
Beer, obviously. My new favorite though is like green juice, because it cuts all the sugar that you've been putting down your throat all day. It's great.
Double with onions, fries well done, and a vanilla shake.
And your current running kicks. What are your go-tos right now?
I'm checking out actually the 110 V2s. I've been using those a little bit recently.
I go back and forth between the New Balance 1210s and the 1500s.
Nice. That was it. Pain-free.
I did it.
Very easy. I have to thank both Andy and Peter for taking the time out of their evening to share their awesome adventure story with us. I want to talk to them about gear. We're going to do that in the post-show briefly because it is a little bit later tonight since we started the show a little bit later. If you have any questions for them, if you're watching live, ask them in the chat room, and we'll rip through those as well in the post-show. Before we let them go, before we move into the post-show, I want them to plug where you can follow them online. So, Andy, where can people follow you on social?
My blog, you said, is ivanranthisfar.tumblr.com, and we both run for as Pacific Mountain Runners PMR, which is, there we go. I was wondering.
Beep, beep, beep.
So we've got a good crew here in LA West Side that we run with. So PacificMountainRunners.com. Your hair looks great. Don't worry. Yeah, check us out. Come shout at us. Come run with us. We always want new people to come out, and we've got some things on the horizon we're going to kind of plan, and maybe some scheming on a few ideas. So follow us and check it out on all the social medias.
I have a sparsely populated blog that I just do race reports on pretty much, and it's in a run report for this. Intrinsicjoy.blogspot.com. Yeah, I'm a noob. I use Blogspot. And Pete Brennen on Instagram. Rock and roll.
Rock and roll. And I also want to ask where you guys, like what the races are that you guys have coming up and stuff. We'll do that in the post show. So yeah, go follow them on social. Let them know. Thank you for jumping on to Ginger Runner Live. It was awesome to have them to share their adventure. Go read their recaps of the adventure. It goes into some really great detail. The timeline, there's great photos and all that good stuff. And show their website some love. For those of you watching live, I appreciate it. Every single Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific Standard Time, you know where to show up, and it's pretty awesome. Love the community that we're building here. And you can follow on all the social, obviously, at The Ginger Runner. On Facebook, it's facebook.com/TheGingerRunner, GingerRunner.com. Instagram is at Ethan Newberry. And for those of you who are Patreon members, we'll be doing a Patreon crew live this Thursday for you only. So I'm very excited about that because we have a lot to talk about, lots of things happening and all that good stuff. So jump over to patreon.com/TheGingerRunner if you would like to join the crew. And that is it. We'll see you guys in the post show. Hope you're getting out there training hard, racing harder, and partying the hardest. I know I am. Stick around. That's it, guys. That's now we're in the post show, so all that main talking jibba jabba is all done. I appreciate it.
Now we can just get shirtless and just.
We're still live, Andy. We're still live. Oh God.
Ginger Runner After Hours.
Yeah, this is. I will have to say, Andy, this is the first time I've had a shirtless guest. So.
Well, 69, bro.
It's luscious.
Episode 69, the post show. Everyone gets crazy. Ethan's wearing a cat, looking at a moon, and Andy's also wearing a cat.
I'm just pieces of a cat. It once was a cat. It's now part of my chest.
So what races do you guys have coming up? Because you're talking about your summer schedule. What do you guys have on your summer schedules?
I'm just doing AC, Angeles Crest, August 1st. That's the only thing I have coming up. I might throw something at the end of the year, but I don't. I'll just kind of play it by ear.
And I have the Wasatch Front 100, and that's also it. Just maybe if I find something as a training race in the middle, but otherwise just the Wasatch Front.
Yeah.
I like that you both said, I just have AC 100 or I just have Wasatch. It's like, you guys, those are hard races. Those are real hard.
Yeah.
There's no shame in that. I just have Cascade Crest 100 miler. That's it. That's all I have. Yeah.
That's awesome.
Yeah, you guys should take the trip up. Come on up to Washington and run some of the Pacific Northwest trails with us. Do it. Get in your cars and drive.
I would offer to crew or pace, but I know you have legions of fans at your beck and call.
Yeah, and they're all coming. It's I'm very, very excited. I put an open call for crew and pacers, and they'll all be there. Everyone watching live, you guys are all coming. So very, very excited.
First team with 20 pacers in a race. We're just gonna have there's gonna be people coming past, and they're like, "Oh my God, so many runners are coming through."
They're all wearing a P. All wearing a P on their leg. Who are they? Are they all pacing the same dude, or like what's going on? We were actually talking about that this weekend. AC and their one pacer, right? So the deal is this year that they'll only allow you to have a single pacer for 50 miles. Is it like
modified?
All in?
They changed it. They changed it. So you can pick up a pacer at Chantry now. There was a brouhaha, I believe is the technical term.
I think it's a good term. Yeah.
Over the idea of having a pacer for 48 miles, making one person pace for 40 miles. It was what it was, and now they've kind of wised up and they've changed it. So yeah, luckily you can have two pacers now.
Okay, good. That I was thinking there was. I almost thought it was a safety concern too when you have two people running 50 miles. I mean, yeah, you're dealing with a whole extra bag of worms. Peter, you said Wasatch 100, and then I wanted to talk about gear. So this is what I was really curious about for the Yosemite, unofficial Yosemite. What did you guys do as far as let's kind of work through physical gear? So shoes, socks, shorts, shirts, jackets, packs, stuff like that, and then we'll get to nutrition.
You want me to go first? All right.
He's taller.
All right, I'm taller. I guess I get thanks for that. Shoes, New Balance 1210 V2. Socks were Injinji. I wore a pair of Saucony Ant Pro 2 tights as the base tights, and then I had a pair of I don't know, I guess looser thermal tights to pull over those when it got real cold at night. And then Smart Wool base layer followed by a Mountain Hardwear hooded fleece jacket thing. I don't even know what it's called. And then a Mountain Hardwear capacitor jacket on top of that as my rain/wind shell. And a beanie, and some Outdoor Research Hot Pursuit gloves. They're those gloves that have the little lobster claw you can pull out and put over the wind shell. And that was actually super clutch because running through the night when it's like 28 degrees out is really, really cold. And having that wind shell was good. And then I stuffed some hand warmers up the gloves to keep my fingers from freezing.
Yeah. I don't really understand the lobster glove. Do you know why the lobster glove thing is? We couldn't figure out.
So I know mittens, or if you have the fold over thing, it's because you're able to keep your fingers warmer when they can use each other as heat sources. As far as the lobster, I'm thinking it's just for more tactile. You can grab a flashlight easier because you can use 3 fingers as opposed to having to use a whole hand. That's the only thing I could think of is that it's just more tactile.
It doesn't seem like, unless you're doing you're doing this, it was weirdly unfunctional when we were trying to figure out what it was.
Yeah, I had to pull them off a lot to do small things, but I guess it was nice to be able to kind of do the pinchy thing.
That's the only thing I can think of is that the pinchy thing is the real reason that they're doing
it.
I
guess you can do this. I guess that's the thing. You can articulate with your thumb, right?
I would think that they're going to steal the idea. I know they're going to watch this episode and steal it, but that I think would make more sense. So you actually have
if you did this, maybe that makes more sense, like a shocker sort of.
Yes, shocker mitten.
Old, totally useless, but very fun.
It would just look awesome.
It's a party glove. New line.
Party glove. What'd you use, Andy?
I had, as I said, I had New Balance 1010 V2s on, which I actually really love, and they discontinued. I'm so mad.
I am so mad too. I love those shoes.
No, because the thing is, I use those for my desert races. I use those for Monument Valley and Antelope Canyon, which were pure desert races, all sand, almost 100% sand. And they're I'm sure someone's gonna be like, no, they're not. But they're the only like minimal shoes that New Balance makes that don't have a mesh top and mesh upper. So they were amazing on sand, and they don't make them anymore. So I gotta afford them. So anyway, had those some Injinji socks. The New Balance North Face, those Flight Series shorts, which are awesome. I love those. And then at night switched into I have Solomon. I forget what they call it. It's like not windbreaker, but these awesome these Solomon tights that I used when I lived in Colorado.
Mm-hmm.
And then North Face base layer, which was black and really hot during the day, as we said. And then a Solomon long sleeve zip up on top of that. And then I actually had a REI event shell that was waterproof for the night, just because I brought that just because I didn't know whether we were going to be going through like more snow and wet and stuff like that. And some Mizuno gloves, buff, PMR hat, obviously for fashion more than anything else, and some stunned sunglasses. And then my pack was Ultimate Direction, the SJ, which I used in when I was doing the Camino in Spain. And it's an awesome pack. That thing carries so much, and it's so light. But even then, we still had, because we had all this gear on us. And then we had 9,000 calories on us as well. We actually ended up having to lash extra onto us. So I had a Sea to Summit bag that I kept all like extra gear, and we had to kind of like lash that to the back. So we had these like crazy wonky like modified packs that we were running with all night.
Yeah, those packs are built for a very kind of specific amount of gear stashed in them. They hold tons. But when you start strapping on more, they almost become like floppy to and fro, like the weight is distributed.
You have like a fin at the back because it's like not made for. It's made to like put a jacket on or something. Like even those things they're not. It's just not designed for that sort of adventure. But I still liked it more than a fast pack. I think those Ultimate Directions are really snug, and like I said, I did the Camino in that, and that was like all I needed for the Camino. It was just barely enough. So the problem was all the nutrition. We literally had 9,000 calories, so it was all gels and chews, and we both brought these like rice bars that we baked, which was kind of, I would say, one mistake in planning, because it ended up being a lot of water in those things, a lot of weight.
Calories per pound was not high enough on those.
Not optimal, because we could have done. It was a trade-off again. It's like you could do straight gels, straight chews, you can do all these things, but at least for me, when I'm running up,
can you use straight gels or straight chews for 30 hours?
Yeah, exactly. So like when you're running a 100-miler race, you have aid stations, and it's like, oh great, watermelon and Coke and pretzels and potatoes and soup and all these things and quesadillas and bacon cheeseburgers and whatever this happened at aid stations these days. But this was, we're out in the middle of nowhere, and we kind of figured we wanted some extra like oomph and some real calories on us. So we brought along these rice bars, and it was the first time that I had made them, and mine were not awesome, and Peter's were really great. And
I've made them a lot of times, and mine are always really, really good because I've perfected it.
Yeah, and I had not. So it ended up being, that was one thing I regret, was it was a lot of dead weight that I ended up not wanting to eat. And we probably should have just dumped them, to be honest. But
I'll tell you what, though, I brought 2 half-pound burgers, and we shared them, we both ate a burger on the Subdome, and that was just really amazing.
So were they just cold by the time you ate them?
Yeah,
I mean, I didn't bring a stove.
yeah. Dude, a sunrise hamburger on the top of the Subdome is like, I mean, it wasn't the tastiest burger I've had, but it was the coolest burger I've had.
Yeah, it's not going to be that tasty, but combined with 65 miles and 6 hours slogging through the snow through the night, it's pretty tasty. Yeah.
That actually sounds pretty amazing. Nutrition-wise, going into the future, doing it again, what would you change besides the recipe? I guess you talked about pounds per calorie. How would you fix that?
So I split my calories in three. I brought 3,000 calories of rice, 3,000 calories of gel, and 3,000 calories of tailwind. And while the tailwind seems like a great idea at the time, I think tailwind's better suited for racing where there's 8 stations and you can kind of dole it out as needed.
But it's all you need all day, really.
Well, the problem is it's not all you need all night because I can't go through 600 milligrams of sodium an hour at night in the freezing cold. And so I didn't do the tailwind thing at night, and I was just crushing on gels. And honestly, I'm one of those weird anomalies where I can eat gel for 75 miles and be fine with it. But yeah, I think I'd replace the tailwind with a far smaller proportion and just replace that with gels.
Yeah. Gels and rice is probably not the most optimal. It's a lot of carbs, but it's just so much water too. So I would actually probably bring more like burgers and like high fat and some Snickers and some real things. I can't do Cliff Bars. Those things are so like
really dry, and I'm like, you need to take a lot. I feel like I need to take a lot of liquid when I eat those.
Yeah, exactly. They're bad, but actually, there's a lot of. I'll give a plug. The feed is awesome. They have a lot of great. They have a lot of like all kinds of organic bars and gels and kind of whatever you need. And actually, I've been kind of like working my way through their inventory on all kinds of stuff. And there's like some honey bunches and there's some kind of cool stuff on there. So I've kind of discovered all these like little nut bars, and I would probably load up on a lot more of those before I do like so much rice again.
So someone in the chat was asking if you have ever run in New Zealand and or Australia. Have either of you run in either?
No,
I have not. Our buddy Michael has done some hiking and running in New Zealand, and it looks amazing.
Yeah. If someone wants to buy a plane ticket for us so that we can go run in New Zealand or Australia, we'd be more than happy to accept that.
Absolutely, I would definitely accept that.
I will also gladly accept that. That's definitely been like, I would love to travel. I get the question all the time. Have you raced in France, or have you run in Germany, or Indianapolis was what I was going to say. I don't know why that popped up. Totally would. Just need that, travel, the travel costs covered and stuff like that. It's always on the list. Always on the list. Well, I'll let you guys go. I know it's getting late. Your adventure sounds amazing. Please keep me posted when the next one happens. Even if not to do it with you, but to like go and tag along for a little bit and pull a Dom and Katie and kind of see some of the sights, because Yosemite is one of the places on this planet that I would go to every day if I could possibly. This is great. Little late, but finally got a beer. We came back from a long trip in Arizona, and we had no beer in the house, and I was like, crap, I have Andy and Peter, and I know they're gonna drink beer tonight. So Kim just got back from the store. So cheers. What is that?
Thanks, Kim. Cheers.
Golden Road. Cheers, gentlemen. Yeah. And to those of you who are still watching live, I know we're late on the East Coast and across the globe. We appreciate it. Once again, Andy and Peter, let them know where they can find you. Just refresh their memories.
Ivan ran this far at tumblr.com, or Ivan shot this on Instagram, and I even wrote this on Twitter.
And I'm at P Brennen, BRENNEN on Instagram, and intrinsicjoy.blogspot.com.
And PMR and Pacific Mountain Runners on everything else. Just look us up. Come join us.
Go check them out. Andy, I definitely want to come out and run with you guys at some point.
Yeah.
And maybe even in the Gabriels, because I need to get some mountain runs in if you guys are ever doing that.
We're talking about doing the last 26 of AC, maybe on Saturday.
Oh, Sunday.
Okay. Sunday.
Sunday's the training run.
Oh, yeah. So
there's the sanctioned. Is that sanctioned weekend coming up?
yeah, it's put on. So it's like they've got the aid stations and everything set up. So actually, anyone in LA or the area, if you want to come out, you can run the last 26 AC, and it's good to know. It's definitely the hardest part of the course, I think.
Which is crazy. I remember that from last year, just seeing the last 26 in bits and pieces, and it's like, this is how the race ends? It starts like a bitch, the middle is a bitch, and the end is a bitch. I don't know how you guys do it. I really don't. So for those watching live, thank you so much for sticking around. Again, every Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific. You guys know it. You're the regulars, and you're the fucking best. I'll be totally honest. Don't tell anyone else. You guys are the fucking best. I'm going to enjoy my beer and enjoy some dinner. Andy and Peter, it was great to have you guys on the show. Peter, it was really great to meet you and hear all about your guys' adventures. Super jealous, super excited about it, and it makes me want to go back to Yosemite like right now. That's it for tonight's show. We'll see you guys next Monday, 6 p.m. Pacific. That's it. Okay. Bye.
See ya. Bye.